Hello, everybody, and welcome back to OMB Reviews. I am the critic who is a cynic. How is everyone doing this evening? Happy and blessed Monday, and welcome to episode 563 of the Welcome to Asgard podcast, where tonight we're going to talk a little bit about what is going on with Jurassic World Rebirth at the box office, as interestingly, the media and many channels on YouTube are focusing purely on the big number itself being the biggest 3-day total, though, of course, we do have to add in, technically it's a 4-day total, to come out so far in 2025, besting the likes of the Minecraft movie, besting the likes of even Lilo and Stitch live action. And yet, when you remember that it got released on a Wednesday and so therefore got a day advantage and it opened up to like a $30 million Wednesday, in fact, okay, I'll give it to you. Your opening weekend ended up being the biggest weekend of 2025. I will grant that to you, even though, of course, we still cannot ignore the fact that it did have that extra day advantage. The other thing, though, that's been driving me a bit crazy is that there are people in our comment section who just either don't understand how to math or are trying to come up with every single excuse in the book to explain why this is actually the best number ever and the best opening weekend ever for the Jurassic World franchise and how it's really, really good. Now, I'm of two minds. Of the one, it is good in that, yeah, starting off $300 million in 2025 is a good number to start at. Look at what happened with Minecraft. That went on to $950 million. Lilo and Stitch start off at $300 million, went on still making money. It's at $972, almost $975 million. So this puts it in a very good position. The only other films that have had opening weekends in 2025, like this one, went on to go and make well over $900 million. However, not every movie is created equal. Not every film has to be looked at in the same way. And that's why we're going to go through some box office facts when it comes to what is going on with Jurassic World Rebirth. Because again, there's some good news for sure, especially with a budget of $180 million being on the lower end of the Jurassic World franchise. So that's a big factor. And then also, too, it is set to do very, very well in the international markets, where it's already making quite a bit of money. That all being said, we always keep things real here. It's just the math. It's just the numbers. And we keep it to you live and with as little subjective impersonation type mentalities, right? I don't have any horses in these fights often. If I'm a fan of a film, I will tell you. If I'm not a fan of a film, I will tell you. But even if there's films that I hate, if they do well at the box office, I will straight up say, boom, they did well at the box office. I had to do that when Captain Marvel went on to make $1 billion, and I said, yeah, that was really, really good. But then also at the same time, if it's a film that I really enjoy, like, say, the John Wick franchise, and then I look at a film like Ballerina, I will also call and say, yeah, not so good there either. So we will talk about exactly what is going on with Jurassic World. Is it making money? Is it flopping? Is it going to make $1 billion? What exactly is the health of the franchise? And I think that's really where the focus needs to be, is what is the actual health of the Jurassic World franchise? Because in that regard, I don't think there is a debate. The health is not strong. The health, in comparison to where it started with the first Jurassic World movie, we have fallen quite a bit, not just in quality, but even also, and most importantly, in audience size. And if you're a franchise and your retention rate from your audience, especially domestically, is diminishing every time, so much so that domestically this opening weekend was half the domestic opening of the last Jurassic World movie, that should tell you something about where the audience is. So again, never going to take anything away from the $300+ million opening. Kudos to them. The Deadlines of the world and the Varieties of the world, they can run with their headline articles of saying, it's the biggest opening of 2025. It's like, not apples to apples, because Minecraft, that was a 3-day opening. Lilo and Stitch, I think, also was a 3-day opening. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, please. And then Jurassic World got a special 5-day opening. but we're somehow comparing those as being the exact same. And they've done this before, right? And I always call it out whenever they do. Whenever they try and say in their headlines of, oh, look at how much money it's made. Oh, wait, that's over 5 days, not over 3 days. That's a pretty big difference there. It's kind of important to compare these things apples to apples as much as we possibly can, which is why, one, inflation is such an important factor, and two, ticket sales. Because those are actual individual persons. We're not even talking about the quality of the movie at this point. And that's the other thing I've also seen in the comment section are people that are just simping over this movie. And it's like, look, I'm not even talking about the merits of the film. I'm just talking to you about what the math is actually saying. So we'll talk about that. Also, I'll give my thoughts on Squid Game Season 3 series finale. Though I put an asterisk next to that because there are some shenanigans towards the end that obviously indicate that things will keep going. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Before going any further, though, please make sure you smash that like button. Light up also that fire button on Aussie. Smash the rumble button as well. We are live over on X/Twitter, so make your presence known on whatever platform that you are watching on. And today being the 7th of July, we are currently celebrating the feast of Saints Cyril and Methodius, who were bishops and confessors. They were very important to the Slavic peoples, especially, translated the Mass, translated, I think, the scriptures as well. It's where the Cyrillic alphabet comes from. So if you have any Slavic heritage and you are Christian or Catholic or whatever, again, from some Christian denomination, you probably have Saints Cyril and Methodius to thank for that because of the immense work that they did. All right, let's go ahead and say hello to the people in the chat, though, before jumping into any of this. And so, Snortapoopus Cuber, hello, humans and other quitters. What's going on, Snortapoopus? Glad to have you here, as always. He then says, hello. Jeremy Zakowski, evening Odin, how was your vacation? Wasn't much of a vacation. When you're going to a family reunion, for one, again, it's great to be with family. Those are always great things, and there's fun things that we do. But it is also spending a lot of time with family. And so when it's your teacher, your summertime, you're liking having those days off because you're with kids throughout the rest of the year for 8+ hours a day, in addition to all the emails and parents and everything like that. So it's nice for us teachers to have just alone time a lot in the summer. And this is always the week, the last couple years especially, that has been really hellistic for me, because I love spending time with the family, right? My wife's family is great, but it is also, again, a lot of people interactions, things of that sort. Add to that a 4-year-old who's turning 5 this year, a 1-year-old who's turning 2 this year, and then you're driving to St. Louis for 6-7 hour drive, then to Tulsa after that, another 5 to 6 hour drive, and then driving all the way back home. First leg about a 6-7 hour drive, last leg about a 4-hour drive. Yeah. Let's just say we were very happy to be back, but then it was the weekend, and so we just kind of was nonstop. So today was nice. Today I actually got to sit back to chill a little bit, played a little bit of Hogwarts Legacy on the Steam Deck, and was able to also watch I binge-watched all of Squid Game Season 3. Started watching a little bit of a couple other things too, including a few episodes of Star Trek, the original series as well. So no full updates on that because I'm just a few more episodes in, but I did start that up today, and so hopefully I will continue that going into tomorrow. Unfortunately, my dog River is sick. We don't know what's going on. She's just not eating. She did recently switch her meds for her anxiety, and so we think that is a part of it. But it is very weird nonetheless because we've been mixing in pumpkin, which normally does the trick. We tried putting in some non-fat, non-flavored Greek yogurt in, and she liked that, but then she wouldn't eat anything else. So, and also I saw her eating a little bit of grass outside too. So Lord knows she is going through something. We don't know exactly what, but it's been a few days since she's had like a consistent schedule. So we probably will have to get her to the vet. Otherwise, she's acting normal, though. That's the other thing. It's like, okay, well, I don't know what's going on with you, girl. Are you just being really, really picky with your food, or is there something else going on there? I don't know. All right, Kimberly G, Killian Shadowcat, howdy, everybody. Sorry, Odin, I'll be missing the stream. It's my wedding anniversary. Well, happy anniversary to you and to your husband, Kimberly G. Thank you, as always, for being in the chat. And yeah, family comes first. So thank you. Speaking of that, I see that my son's door is open, so we'll see what happens. if he's just having to use the restroom and will just take care of himself, or if I hear a little knock at the door, or if he goes to get his mom instead. We'll wait and see. If the dogs react, that will tell me quite a bit. But Kimberly G, congratulations. Happy anniversary to you. Hope that you have a wonderful time. All right, Laura, the Mother Major General story. What's going on, Laura? Welcome back. Glad to have you here. She's saying, what's up? What's up? Keely Chow, hail to you. Thanks for being here. Jimmy A, who is a member here on the channel. Hail to you, Jimmy A. Thanatos Felicitas, thank you very much for tagging. Welcome at 7:23 p.m. We've also got at 7:24, Hail Odin, how are you? Thor, Freya, Baby Stiff doing? How was your weekend? Everyone's doing pretty well so far, other than, again, the door being open. So who knows exactly what's going to happen with that. And yeah, other than that, though, everyone's doing really, really good. And I just heard a little knock at the door. So give me just a second. I don't think I've had to play my Be Right Back in a while. So I have no idea if it's going to work or not. So here we go. All right, and we are back. Apologies for that, everybody. It's been a long time. It's been like years since I've had to put the Be Right Back up there on the screen. But yeah, that was a little knock at the door saying that his butt hurts. So normally that just means that he wants some type of booty cream or something. So luckily, thankfully, the wife is going to take over from there. But again, I do apologize for that. I haven't had to do that in quite a long time. We got Bruce hanging out in the chat. What's going on, Bruce? Welcome back. Glad to have you here. I am also live over on X, and so I did try out the chat there, and so as you can see, I can highlight chats over on that platform as well. Also, if you are still watching on Odyssey, please let me know. I'm thinking of stopping my streams to Odyssey since I'm now streaming to X, YouTube, and Rumble. Those are plenty of options for people. Since only 1 or 2 people actually ever watched on Odyssey in the first place. Kind of like what happened with DLive. DLive was a great alternative, and eventually it just became, it's not really worth the effort it is to create that extra stream because they just haven't really modernized in any way. They haven't innovated in any way. They're kind of just stuck. And so it just doesn't really seem worth it. And since it seems that the people that watch there also can watch on YouTube or watch on Rumble or an alternative, and I do offer at least 2 other alternatives in both X, Twitter / Rumble. I am considering doing that. So if you are a hardcore Odyssey user, though, and you're watching and you're just lingering in the background, though, please let me know. Make a case for Odyssey because I might stop streaming to Odyssey starting either this week or next week. All right, let's see. Rob D. What's going on, good sir? 729. Tag to say, hello, Odin. I read something interesting online yesterday. Phase 5 of the MCU failed to beat even Phase 1 at the box office, and that's without even adjusting for inflation. And I'm not surprised by that. In fact, I think it would probably be worse than that in many respects. Now, Phase 5, I get all the phases mixed up. They've done such a terrible job differentiating between each of the phases. It's hard to even know exactly where it falls. Like, what movies would constitute Phase 5? Are those all of like the COVID movies that have only recently ended? I honestly don't know. So if that is the case, then yeah, I can only imagine that they have not gotten anywhere close to the first phase, because the first phase would have the first Avengers film in there, which made quite a pretty penny at the box office. Let's see, Laura saying, nobody has called me Mother Major General in 2 weeks. I know, it's been a while. Sorry, start off crazy with the knocking on the door. But yeah, I've missed y'all very much. And so thank y'all for being here and for still hanging out on this channel. We like to have fun here. And also, huge shout, of course, to the Force of Light Entertainment ladies, because I know that they always have their earlier show. So just want to shout them out. Always appreciate them. Cap Strong, what's going on, Cap Strong? Welcome back to the chat. He says, I'm a gardener. We don't do math. Well, don't worry. I will take care of it for you. General Wingster, a pet troll, saying math is stupid. Well, we kind of need it in most places. Kincaid and Rumsky over on the Green Machine. What's going on, Kincaid and Rumsky? Do you know what Jurassic was predicted to get over the weekend? So what we can say, and that's kind of going to lead us into our first discussion, then we'll jump back into the chat, is we had some idea of what it was expected to do, and it has overperformed, okay? So that's why there's really a tale of two different stories going on here. And unfortunately, people of a certain mind are only wanting to hear what they want to hear, right? That's kind of the problem that we have fallen into here. But before going into these numbers, okay, it's very important for us to get ourselves in the right mindset and the right headspace, because as was just mentioned by Cap Strong, who is a gardener who doesn't do the math, that is okay, because you're about to bear witness.
Time to see a real mathematician at work.
That's right. It's time for the math, and time to see a real math magician at work here. So, yes, indeed, we have right now the weekend numbers, and so these have been updated over time. So let's go ahead and enhance. Oh, too close. So over the weekend, Jurassic World Rebirth. This is again counting from just the 3 days, and so this is the 3-day total. So the way that they do the math over on thenumbers.com is that they have the 3-day totals, and then they also have your running totals, okay? So in its opening weekend, it made only $92 million. Now, I say only because the original 3-day projections, I believe, were hovering somewhere in the 80s range. So this did better in that 3-day total. If you look at the inclusive of Wednesday, Thursday numbers here, because again, it had an earlier opening. By Sunday, it opened up to 147 million. And this is going to be the first place where you're going to see some people try to play a little bit of trickery with the math and with the ticket sales, right? Because what they're going to do is they're going to say, well, look, by the end of the first Sunday, Rebirth made 147 million domestically. You put that up against some of these other movies, and look, that's actually really, really good. The problem? This includes days that those other films did not actually have accounted for, and those other days were actually pretty sizable. It's one thing if it had an opening day a day early where it did nothing, and then in the end, there really is no difference or comparison between the two. That's the discussion we'll have eventually on the internationals, because there's some who are complaining that I didn't mention that Jurassic World Dominion, which had a higher opening weekend than this one did, opened internationally a week earlier. What they leave out is what countries, because that's a very important one, what countries it released in early back in 2022 and how much it made in those countries. By the way, it doesn't make much of a difference, but we'll get there. Don't worry. We'll get there. We're cooking with some gas here, okay? But Jurassic World Rebirth, okay? So the first part of the story is, this is a big number, okay? This is a big opening weekend. For a domestic opening, $147 million is a very strong start, okay? But it is important to remember that includes a 2-day advantage, right? So there's a 5-day weekend for Jurassic World Rebirth. So 147 includes its Wednesday numbers, its opening day numbers, and then its Thursday numbers. And then the Friday through Sunday, that's where you get your 92 million, okay? So hopefully everyone's still following me. So well over 50 million extra made, right, in those first couple of days. 92, the bulk of it, though, made over the 3-day total of Friday through Sunday. So that is where the weekend numbers for it came in. Globally, we actually did get an update because these do get adjusted over time. We have the estimates from yesterday, and then we have the actuals from this weekend. So as you can see, the actual numbers here are indicating $322.6 million globally for Jurassic World Rebirth. So because of these adjustments, it went from a 318 global start to now a 322 global start. So overall, that's not bad, right? Overall, that's pretty good. But remember, this is also inclusive of not just your international numbers that came in stronger than expected, but also of your domestic numbers, which, remember, gets the advantage of those Wednesday full bore, full slate release and Thursday full slate release. Most other films tend to have their Thursday and Friday numbers combined for their first Friday numbers because the Thursday premieres start at maybe 2, 4 p.m. Depends. It gets earlier every year. But these are what the old midnight showings used to be, right? Your movie would technically come out sometime Thursday evening. Those would roll over and count towards the Friday total. With a release like this, that didn't happen because it had an actual opening day on Wednesday with like a full slate and then on Thursday with a full slate. And so keeping that in mind then, $322 million on paper, you're like, yeah, that is higher than the $304 million made by Lilo and Stitch. But remember, Jurassic World has 2 extra days accounted for it in the domestic market. And so worth about $50 million, remind you. So yeah, therefore, if you're just looking at 3 days to 3 days, Lilo and Stitch actually has the advantage there. If you go then to the other $300 million film of 2025 of a Minecraft movie, $313 million is where that film opened up worldwide. And just like that before, yes, on paper, if you look just at what it made, what it has made so far by Sunday of its first weekend, yes, Rebirth is ahead, but it has a 2-day advantage domestically. It has $50 million advantage because at the same point of release for Minecraft and for Lilo and Stitch, they as it were. So already on the surface, right, you're seeing that these are really good numbers. They're not as good as some people are trying to spin it to be. Now remember, the overall budget for the film was $180 million. I believe some have argued and led in the comment section that if you add in total marketing, that the marketing for this movie was actually much higher than your typical. The number that I've heard floated around, and again, take this number with a gigantic grain of salt, was that the total cost was around $350 million. So if that indeed were the case, right, you're still talking about a break even of around $540 million because it's based off of your budget, not necessarily based off of your total cost. That being said, you do need to make probably closer to over 3 times your budget with a huge marketing budget on top of that. And that's why, again, $198 million sounds about right in that capacity. Now, again, I will continue to run with the 270 number because that is, again, what your typical marketing cost would likely be at this point, right? That's your budget times 1.5, which means it's around $118 million in the red. So that number there is actually a good sign. When you are spending that much money on a movie, if you're already getting close to being under $100 million in the red after just one weekend, okay, right now you're looking like you're pacing towards being able to make your money back and to make some profits. And that's what movies and studios like to see. The other factor, though, so that's the one part, all right? That's just one way of looking at it, is that it's positive. $322 million, the highest opening weekend of 2025, with that major caveat being it had a 2-day advantage. Okay, so just keep leaving that there, nipping that in the bud a little bit, but still doing well enough otherwise, okay? It is on track right now, right? Remember, these other 2 movies that had $300+ million openings were able to end over $900 million. Okay, $950, $970, and counting for Lilo and Stitch. The $950 was for a Minecraft movie. Those are good numbers, right? Those are numbers that this film could potentially make if it has a similar run at the box office. Here's another big issue. So when it comes to both Lilo and Stitch and Minecraft movie, much more so with Minecraft, those films had really great legs and did really well down the line. Those films were much better received, right? Jurassic World is a very divisive film. The Rebirth franchise is very divisive. I've heard people who have really enjoyed it. I've heard people who have hated it. And some of the biggest names in independent reviewers, people like Jeremy Johns and Critical Drinker, were not fans of the film either. Whether that impacts you going to a movie or not, for some people it matters, for some people it does not. The fact still remains that these numbers are just not what this franchise would really be wanting to see because of this fact. If you go back to what Jurassic World Dominion had done, and I did this coverage in my box office breakdown, both my article on geeksandgamers.com, check my article out there, or in my video that was posted just yesterday here on the channel. And that was that Jurassic World Dominion opened to $391 million, right? Roughly $391 million. What some people, though, this is kind of getting to the second point, try to say was, oh, no, but Tony at Deadline said this is the second biggest opening in the entire franchise's history. And I already called that out and showed why that is a complete bunk statement to make. It takes a lot of maneuvering of monies, and shifting of numbers to really get to that point, okay? And it comes down to this, right? we still have the global opening for Jurassic World Dominion. And guess what? Jurassic World Dominion, yeah, it opened up to over $380+ million at the global box office. That's quite a bit more than the $322 million made here. So again, it's not saying anything. I've already made the one statement. So for people who are just freaking out because they can't understand nuance or have a discussion about anything, I've on the one hand said, Rebirth's doing well. It's doing better than it is expected to do, and it's on track to make quite a bit of money, and in fact, probably to make a good amount of profit to boot. However, is it doing as well in comparison to the rest of the franchise? In that instance, we would have to say categorically the answer is no. Categorically, the answer is no, because of how it's doing in comparison to even just the previous movies. So the argument that some people were trying to make about Dominion was, oh, well, you're being unfair because Dominion had a week advantage, okay? It opened up a week early internationally. So it's not really fair to compare those two numbers. You can't just say that and not actually back it up with data. So I went ahead and looked at the numbers.com and said, okay, I'll grant you that it had a week advantage, because sometimes that happens, right? Sometimes these studios will put the movies out a week or two early in an international market to try to build up some of the talking points. And you know what I found? I found that you have just about $50 million that was made internationally in its opening week, not just weekend, but opening week. 50 million. Oh, wow. What an advantage. Oh, and by the way, when you take out that full amount of money and adjust what's left over for inflation, you're still almost at $400 million made for this movie in its opening weekend worldwide, which is still about $75 million better than what was made by Rebirth. So therefore, the same points that I had made in that other one of, hey, this film is quite far behind Dominion, and so therefore, this is not better than Dominion's numbers. We know it's not better than the first Jurassic World's numbers, because that movie was huge, even just domestically in its opening weekend. And I don't have the data to look at Fallen Kingdom, but something tells me Fallen Kingdom also probably had a pretty good opening as well. So I really am kind of wondering, where are the mainstream shill media getting this second best global opening from? Because unless they're saying, oh, we're ignoring the fact that there's a 2-day advantage in the domestic market, where $50 million for the Jurassic World Rebirth movie, so that's how we're going to compare those domestic numbers, but we're then going to try to make some, fugazi math on the international front to try to say, well, that weak advantage there, we're going to compare this, not adjust for inflation or do anything like that. Okay, yeah, if you do all of that crazy nonsense stuff, disingenuous stuff, yeah, I'm sure you can get to that argument. You can make a point. But it's not actually looking at the facts. It's not looking at the actual data. The fact is, Rebirth is tracking well beneath the last movie. Globally, 75 million at least beneath the last movie. And don't forget, that is taking out that weak advantage, the weak advantage internationally by Dominion. And hey, wait a minute, if we're going to be fair, we should probably also take out the advantage, that 2 extra day advantage that Rebirth had. And oh wait, that actually just widens the gap a bit, doesn't it? So we're talking about a $50 to $100 million difference between these two movies. That's quite a drop in your audience. Just looking domestically between these two movies, you saw about half of the audience disappear. Half of the audience disappear. Going back to this franchise, again, Rebirth at $92 million. Okay, that's the 3 days. That's the 3-day total. That's not including your Wednesday and Thursday. $145 million is what that made in 3 days. It took 5 days. It took 5 days for Rebirth to get to 147. Just to give a bit of a perspective there. Fallen Kingdom, same situation. Jurassic World, $208 million. So, even on paper, where they're getting these numbers from is really hard to figure out. Because just looking at the data, looking at the facts, it seems that they're shifting a lot of numbers around to try to make this happen, when if you just take the numbers as they are, it's quite clear. Your audience is shrinking. And that's what it really comes down to. Is the film individually in 2025 doing well? Yes, it's going to be one of the biggest films of 2025. Can't take anything away from that. It's going to make money too. If I had to make a bet, I would say, yeah, it's going to make some profits. It's a strong start. But health of the franchise? Is this really a healthy franchise? Well, if you've lost half your audience in your domestic opening, that's not a good place to start. If you have lost a good, $50 to $100 million globally in your starts, that doesn't seem very good. And when you've got the word of mouth that currently this film has, you start to raise that question of, okay, we've seen that law of diminishing returns already, going back to the franchise one more time. Remember that the first Jurassic World made $1.6 billion. This is, again, without adjusting for inflation. That dropped to $1.3 billion for Fallen Kingdom. That dropped another $300 million for Dominion, which is arguably the worst of the franchise. And now we're starting off at $322. Could we see another $300 million drop? $700 million? That's possible. For me, again, all I can do is go based off of the current numbers. Current numbers indicate around a $900 million endpoint for Rebirth, if it has an average run. But that's the question. Will it have an average run? Will it have a below average run? Only that second weekend is going to really tell us for sure where it ultimately falls. But I wanted to get all that stuff out there because, man, oh man, the shills are out in full force, not only in the mainstream media, but also just any fandom. Any fandom has them where it's like, I must attack you because you said this. It's like, look, I'm not saying the film's flopping. I'm not saying the film's going to lose money, but I am saying it is not really looking great. And you compare it to the other films in the franchise. You have lost a large portion of your audience, and you have consistently done that. And this is the biggest loss, the biggest chunk lost so far. And so if that trajectory continues, as it has consistently been going so far, that means this doesn't likely have a very good future ahead of it. But again, just talking theatrically, not looking at toy sales, because guess what? That's not what we cover here. All right, Jimmy A back in the chat, 733, saying, math taught me that 5 plus 5 equals 12, and no one can tell me otherwise. Dang. Kincaid Rumsky, do you consider ScarJo to be a good actress? I think she's an average actress. I think that there are certain things about her that people, unfortunately, focus a little bit too much on, and I think that is part of what influences their perception of her and basically leads to them praising her probably more than she should. She's not a bad actress by any means. I wouldn't say that she is a great actress, though. No, I would say that she's good. I would that's basically as far as I would go with it. Shorty Short saying, I didn't see Jurassic, but most of my coworkers gave it a meh review. Yeah, again, I've been seeing a lot of that. Been seeing a lot of it. Remember, make sure you put a at Odin at the very beginning of your comment, at Odin, if you're trying to get my attention. It helps kind of get through all the different chats to make sure that you're talking to me and not talking to somebody else in the chat. We got Geek True 64 watched your video, dude. Great stuff as always. I was going to see Jurassic World tomorrow, decided to pivot to F1 and IMAX. I'll wait for physical Black Friday sales for Jurassic World. Boom, yeah. I don't think it's even worth that, man. I'm going to be honest. I've only been able to see glimpses of it so far. I haven't seen the whole thing, but knowing where the story goes and what's in it and how basically the big bad monster reveal is essentially a very poorly rendered Rancor ripoff, I can't say I'm happy with it. Can't say I'm looking forward to that in any way. But F1 IMAX is great. Oh, and that's the other thing too. Speaking of such, that's the other argument I've heard some of these Jurassic shills talk about. I see you this is the best part. It's a conspiracy on their part. They're like, I see you conveniently left out that Jurassic World did all of this with no IMAX showings. And I'm like, really, dude? Okay. First off, even with no IMAX showings, it still has several 3D showings and still also has Dolby Atmos access. If we're talking about ticket sale prices, Dolby Atmos is right up there, sometimes maybe even more expensive than IMAX is. So spare me it has no premium screens. It does. It may not have IMAX because IMAX has contracts and obviously certain films are going to get access to that at any given time. But please spare me oh, it didn't have IMAX, and so therefore that's why it didn't do well. It's like, no, stop. It did have premium format screens available to it. And as I've always said, that can help to a point to have the premium format screens. But if people want to go see a movie, they're going to go see the movie no matter what. And ultimately, because ticket prices are so high, that's also why we know many less people went to go see this movie than any other Jurassic World film in history. Even Jurassic Park, when you compare the 3-day weekend, less people went. And again, I can already hear the cry says, but you have to include the Wednesday, Thursday people because they went to see it. It's like, yeah, but guess what? They didn't get the advantage. The other films didn't get the advantage of those 2 extra days. So it's like, wait a minute, you're trying to give them a big advantage there. When if we're just looking at, okay, what's the Friday through Sunday numbers looking like? They had less tickets. That's a fact. You may not like it, but it is what it is. Shorty Short saying, Squid Game didn't do as good of a job of developing the characters this season. Yeah, I felt much more like an ending, right? So I think that the mindset is that, oh, well, all the development of the characters was supposed to be in season 2, and then season 3 is just the completion of all of the different story arcs. I think that's the direction they were going with it. I'll go into more details with my thoughts on this 3rd season, but yeah, that's definitely a critical thing I would have for it. Michael Burgett, what's going on? Tagging to say, hey, Odin, Sean Robbins, Box Office Theory has the opening weekend predictions for Weapons and Freakier Friday. Weapons, 25 to 32 million. Freakier Friday, 45 to 65 million. Yeah, he's got, I think it's, he's got 5-6 week tracking out right now on a ton of things. We always take those with a grain of salt, though, because, again, it's way too early to tell. Justin C., thanks for tagging. Evening, sir. Hope your doggo feels better. I appreciate it right now. She's biting her nails. That is actually a common thing she's done even before the most recent stuff. Baby stream, says Laura. Guys, he's gone. We can have a party now. There it is. Party. Well, never mind. Yeah, it was very quick. Keegan Ramsky, instead of Be Right Back, Odin should just play the extended version of Math. I wish there was an extended version. Jonah Wingster, hi Odin, I'm turning the big 33 on Friday. Can I get an early birthday wish? Well, happy early birthday, General Wingster. The big 3-3, dang. Morak, what's going on, dude? Howdy, hope you had a good weekend. I hope you had a good weekend, the Morak. Glad to have you here, as always. People talking to each other in the chat. We got Hardwick is back. What's the last episode of Star Trek that you watched? Oh, why do you always ask me? I don't know. I think it was the one about the squire of, and again, I'm going to butcher this, of Mothos? Something like that. That's the last one I believe that I have watched. Again, when I'm finished the season, I will tell you when I'm finished the season. Forever Sci-Fi, Marvel is currently on phase out. They've been there for a long time. Marvel says, MCU Phase 5 films, Ant-Man 3, Guardians 3, Marvel's Deadpool, Wolverine, Cat 4, Thunderbolts. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Phase 1's going to whoop that every single time. Because even with a Deadpool, Wolverine, which was the only massive success in that list, Guardians 3 was your next one, still didn't quite do as well. I think it did better than anyone expected. It did better than I expected it to do. Then you have the massive disappointments of Cat 4, Thunderbolts. Marvel's was a complete train wreck. And even Ant-Man 3 was a massive flop. And it's because Ant-Man 3, remember, because of the amazing work of Caroline Reed over at Forbes. She has a whole article about this too. The Ant-Man and the Wasp budget exploded to such a degree. That film was a massive loss. Hardwick, do you ever read biographies of actors? Not really. The closest that I've gotten to is on Audible. There was, I guess it's kind of a biography. So, oh my goodness. Quentin Tarantino had a book that came out, a couple years ago, I think. And he read the first portion of the audiobook. And it's a fascinating listen, especially because you're hearing it in his voice. That's about the furthest that I've got with that, but typically no. Let me think of any other ones. As You Wish was a really good one, but that was more because of my interest in Princess Bride. Carrie Ellis did the voice work also. He did the audiobook for that. He even got a lot of the actors and actresses. Rob Reiner, he got to come into it. Robin Wright did a voice work for it too, and a couple others. So that was actually a really good. But that was mostly because of the behind the scenes information you got about Princess Bride, more so than being about him. But in general, yeah. I did a star study on Heath Ledger back in the day, so I read some books on him, but yeah, not really. Frank G, what would you say is the percentage chance that Lilo and Stitch gets to $1 billion? Based off of the fact it's gotten to 972 as of the last check. Let me pull that up real quick. 974. Oh boy, yeah. Oh, it's only 25 million away. Oh, I would say 75% chance, because any studio can will out through force of will get a movie to $1 billion when you're that close. Remember, Jurassic World Dominion did that back in 2022. Universal was able to get the film right over the finish line after many weeks. In fact, when did Jurassic World Dominion finally hit 1 billion? Let's see what the internet has to say about that. So it had opened in June. So June, July, August, September. So it took 4 months. It took over 4 months to reach. Oh, actually, June to July, July to August, August to September. Sorry, it took over 3 months. It took over 3 months to get there. So over 12 weeks. The numbers only tracks 10 weeks of a run. So that's like at the very end, you're well past, especially in the streaming era that we're in. This was a film that came out in 2022. The fact that it took 12 weeks to get there, that's the very end of your run. That's the very end of your run that you're getting that. So that's why, yeah, based off of the numbers that we have for Lilo and Stitch, yeah, I would say 75% chance at this point. Frank G says his own cutting in and out, or is just my connection? Okay. Sound was out briefly, says Matt Jordan. Okay. Apologize. Hopefully that was just on your ends. Shorty Short tagged to say, do you like movies about gladiators? Do you like gladiator movies? You ever seen a grown man naked? Airplane. Classic. Jimmy A. I must say Jurassic World Rebirth was not doing it for me. Boring, and by the time it got entertaining, it was too little too late. Mid-movie after this and Dominion, I'm done with the series. Bro, I'm surprised that you got through that much, man. Jurassic World was not as good as people said it was. I think way too many people were like, oh, it's back. So there was that excitement. And then there's this weird thing with Chris Pratt, where people just like, oh, because it's Chris Pratt and because he seems based and because he seems like he's one of us in certain ways, we have to support him. We have to praise him. This was really big when the Tomorrow War came out. Really big when the Tomorrow War. I'm going to call out Jeremy here. I think that was actually one of the years Jeremy got nominated for Shill of the Year, because he was so praising of that movie, and the movie's not good. But because he's in it, because Chris Pratt's in it, some people, it's just like that is enough for them to kind of. But look, Jurassic World was a mid-movie at best. It was like a C-level movie at best. Then every film after that, you're getting to D+ or less. And I've heard this one is basically no different. Have you ever been to a Turkish prison? No. Gee. I think that the July movie rankings are Superman is first, Jurassic World is second, F4 is third, and Smurfs movies is last. Why are you throwing Smurfs movies into that? Smurfs is not going to be a part of this discussion, man. Smurfs is not going to be the Smurfs franchise has not been that big at the box office from what memory serves. As far as movie rankings, if you mean what's going to make the most money overall, no. Based on what we have in front of us, Jurassic World's overperforming. So even though it's not been received too well, we'll see what that second weekend drop-off is. But right now, that's tracking for, what, $800 to $900 million. Superman's projections are all over the place. I personally just don't see how the film gets that high of an opening weekend. It's hard for me to see that until the data actually comes out, until those actual ticket sales come in on that Thursday. Like when we get to the Friday and those numbers are finally being reported, then we'll have an idea of, okay, how realistic is this? I think it opens over 100 million domestic though. I think it does that pretty easily. Does it get to $300 million globally? I don't know. I don't think Superman is as international of a brand as a Jurassic World movie would be, or even as a Minecraft movie would be, or even as a Lilo and Stitch movie would be. A lot of factors there. So does it get the $300 million club? That's kind of the new club these days, at least for 2025. Does Superman get to $300 million globally in its opening weekend? I think it's a 50-50 shot at this point, because we just really don't know what to believe when it comes to these early numbers that are coming in. But based off of what we have so far and general feeling, I would take Jurassic World as being the bigger film, just globally. Superman, I could see the number 2 spot, and then Fantastic Four. I don't have any hope for that film. Let's see. Ambrose Chamberpot, what's going on? Welcome back. Jimmy A, thanks for tagging and for being a member. The audience for Jurassic World is shrinking because there are more kids watching it now. Maybe, but the numbers don't lie, and the numbers right now are not looking good. General Winkster's having some burritos. Hardwick, I've seen Rebirth. It's better than Dominion, but the writing is still dumb. The premise it's built on is that getting DNA samples from 3 dinosaurs will cure heart disease in humans. Yep, I remember hearing that much. But also you just mentioned something very important. You said the writing is still dumb. Remember the big selling point for this movie? The big selling point for this movie was, and I quote, the same writer of the original Jurassic Park. The same screenwriter. Glad to see that worked out so well. Again, not a knock against him, but I think it does show us that the issue's probably with Universal at this point. If we didn't know that already, yeah, Universal, I think, is clearly the problem when it comes to why these films have sucked. J.S. Pena saying, I knew Rebirth would suck, but honestly, I'm just interested in whether or not it makes more money than Superman and Fantastic Four. Honestly, I think that is the only reason to have any intrigue in Rebirth. Again, I have no interest to really see it. I feel like I'm going to have to see it because if I'm going to make comments about it, I have to be able to reference it in some way. I mean, I just feel like it's the only right thing to do. Also, Criticalist score is really high, I think, from the reviews that I've read. Like, if I'm looking at Jeremy Johns, if I'm looking at Critical Drinker, it has like a solid, decent score over on Criticalist. And again, that's one of the reasons why I like Criticalist, because you've got so many different mindsets there. It's not just groupthink mentality. There's some very heavy disagreements that exist over there, and it's a great platform for that very reason. But I think the biggest interest anyone has, absolutely, J.S. Pena, I think you're spot on there. I think more people care about the box office battle between those 3 movies than about anything else. And also, keep in mind, it's not going to be a contender to go up against those films, but F1 is going to be a factor, I think, on the global stage for the next couple of weeks. Because the film right now, we did the box office breakdown yesterday, it right now is tracking to probably end north of $500 million. And that's a lot higher than anyone could have anticipated for that movie, I think. Jetta Wingster, I must protect new product even if it's garbage. Jimmy A, I often find Scarlett Johansson's acting somewhat bland. Not that she's a bad actress, just doesn't shine in every role. Agreed. There's not really a lot of... What's the word I'm looking for? There's not a lot of range in her acting. And that's fine. There's actors that I love that are typecast because they do a certain part really, really well. They also would not necessarily have a whole lot of range. But yeah, I would say, again, she's good. She's not great, though. Someone mentioned Charlize Theron. Victor Fontaine, come fly with me. He's hanging out over on Rumble. Getting back into the swing after the holiday weekend, he says. Hope that you had a wonderful 4th of July week. I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July weekend. Jimmy A., when I saw Jurassic World, there was an okay crowd, but nothing special. Far from what I expected. Yes. And that's the other thing, too. And this is kind of a pet peeve. If you ever find somebody on YouTube or on social media trying to play the look at how many tickets have sold for X movie game, do not buy it. It's fool's gold, and it is really it's one, not very good math, and 2, not scientific, and 3, just not really fully thought out. Here's why. If I just pull up a random day of how many tickets have sold for whatever movie it might be, and then say, look at how many tickets, look at how little tickets have sold. All I'm doing is creating a narrative from something that does not itself create a narrative. And the reason why is because, look, every market is different. So Chattanooga will go see certain movies more so than others. Houston will go to see certain movies more so than others because it's different people, it's different cultures, it's different general interest. And so just because a movie is not doing or selling well early in your region does not mean no one is going to see it. The better thing to do, and for people that do this, God bless you, I would not be able to mentally juggle all these pieces. If you are like, hey, I'm going to look every time a big movie comes out, look at 2 weeks before, 1 week before, and I'm going to take a screenshot of my theater, right? Of my IMAX, of my premium format, because those are the easier ones to really compare because it's the same size every time and it's the same price typically every time too. And if you were then to say, look, at the same point, a week before, 2 weeks before, here's how many tickets had sold. That would give you a much better indication of how a film is doing health-wise. Because whenever, and it goes back again to the people who are like, Disney's just buying all these tickets and, oh man, it's fraud, and it's with no actual evidence, because all they could do was show, look at the seats that I found at my local theater. That doesn't tell us anything. Anyway, big pet peeve of mine, so just had to get on that soapbox. Michael Baguette, I always think it's apple-orange comparisons when it's non-holiday weekend versus holiday weekend box office. Yeah. That's another difficult thing to do. And that's why I think it is better to compare the 3-day totals and look at those. And if you're going to complain about the international run starting early for Dominion, but then also ignore the 2-day advantage of it's, again, it becomes more complicated. So in the end, though, what we have is a $400+ million global opening. So by the end of its first Sunday, Dominion was at over $400 million globally when you adjust for inflation. Even with all those advantages, Jurassic World Rebirth, around $325. So again, $75 million advantage towards Dominion, which means $75 million drop in audience. Squire of Gothos. Yeah, that's what it is. I like that one. It was fun. Thanatos Felicitas saying, I would recommend Star Trek animated series from 1973. It used unused scripts from the OG Star Trek. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I've got way too many movies on here that I need to either start to do giveaways for or that I need to put back into my collection. It's been it's been productive as a summer. It's just that, oh my gosh, I can't believe it's already like July. Next week is going to be mid-July. That means that my meetings for school are going to be starting within the next like 2 to 3 weeks. And I don't want to. I have so many things I still need to do, including updating this. This was sent to me by Hardwick. Shout out to him. If this is what you're talking about, the Star Trek continues the complete series, all 11 episodes. With an unprecedented level of production quality and authenticity, it continues right where the original series ended. Stories, costumes, props meant to make you feel like you're back in the adventure. Is that what it is? Let me know. Sahil99, I hope your dog starts to feel better soon. I appreciate that. Right now, she's sleeping. So, would you consider F1 a win for Apple if it's simple, breaks even with a bigger budget? Yes. So, Sahil, I mentioned this in my box office breakdown yesterday, that F1 is in a very good position right now. And the reason why is because, yes, its budget is very high, right? When you're talking $200 to $300 million of a budget, yeah, you need to make a lot. But the thing is that after 2 weeks, it's tracking very well. And it's tracking to such a degree that there's a chance for it to break even theatrically, which is a huge deal for a movie like that. So it could do that theatrically, or in a more likely, or I guess say more of a worst case scenario, be a $25 to $50 million loss theatrically. But then if you remember, wait, Warner Brothers has the distribution rights to everything but the premium streaming platform. So Warner Brothers has everything basically except for it's not going to get on HBO Max. It's going to be exclusive to Apple TV Plus. That's the only rights that Apple TV still has as far as distribution rights are concerned, okay? So Warner Brothers is coming out of this really good because there are licensing fees and everything else. They're getting a lot of that money. Apple probably is getting a cut of it as you know, being a part of the production team behind it. There's a lot of individual producers on the movie too. So there's a lot more complex stuff going on with the movie behind the scenes, which is why a typical simple break-even flop is not going to be very clear with that one. However, because of how well it's doing, it's in a very good position. So I would say it's good news. I would not consider it to be a box office hit. However, I would say it's in a good place. Hardwick, Scarlett Johansson did as much as she could with her role, which amounted to smiling a lot and generally being charismatic, but it's still hard to buy someone her size as a hardened mercenary. But that's, again, not just that role. It's any movie. Kagan Rumsky, will Star Trek Season 1 take longer for you to watch than Babylon Season 1? No, it will not. And again, remember, it's because I started Babylon at the end of a summer, and so I have no time during a school year to watch something like that. So because I started Star Trek Season 1 last year, right at the end of summer, I was not able to get through it. But hey, I was able to continue progressing of it. I'm starting to make my rosaries. That's what I do. If I'm going to watch a show like that and spend a lot of time watching content, I'm going to do something productive as well. So I make my rosaries for my juniors, for my seniors. So I've got that whole thing going. So I'll probably start earlier tomorrow. So I should be able to get through several more episodes. Plus, I watched them on 1.25 speed because it's able to pretty much keep everything in line and you get through them faster. Rita Fontaine over on Rumble saying, yeah, I kind of group the Jurassic fans and Monsterverse fans into the same category. I think that's a fair assessment. Don't care about the quality of the story. Just want to see people get eaten by monsters. And I have the same criticism of those two groups because, look, you can get the awesome monster stuff with a good story. I mentioned this in my video yesterday. It's called Jurassic Park. The fact that Jurassic Park exists makes any argument that those fans make about this movie irrelevant. But what are you talking about? You just want, we just want to see this. It's like, I'm sorry, but where did the whole franchise start? Oh, with a great movie? With an Oscar caliber movie? When the Oscars actually meant something? Like, oh, okay. I see where your priorities are. Jimmy A. At this point, Disney will put Lilo and Stitch at drive-in double features just to squeeze money out of it. Again, they'll do everything they can. Justin C. I think the Snickers wrapper is all one needs to know about Jurassic World Rebirth. Oh, that's right. A candy wrapper somehow is enough to disrupt the system to let the bad monster out. And Max says your connection. Okay. I don't have any drop frames on my part, so hopefully everything is still coming through okay. No, it was not. Guy, the first Smurf movie 2011 made $500 million. Yes, you think about the Smurfs, you think about the kids involved, that should have made $1 billion. That should have made a lot more. And look at what the other films have made since then. They have not been the biggest moneymakers to my recollection. Victor Fontaine, Ryan and Jay put Rebirth above Fallen Kingdom and Dominion. Yeah, I have not seen all of Rebirth, so I can't put it there yet. All I know is that Dominion and Fallen Kingdom both sucked. So unless this thing is going to be as good as the first World, which again to me is a C-level mid-tier film, unless it's there, it's going to be in the same category as those two movies. I don't care if it's slightly better. Again, that's nonsense. Hardwick. The worst part of Rebirth is the family. Jimmy A. I want to like Superman, but when they came out with clips like "Where is my dog?" Yeah, but they're going after those normies, man. That's what that is. They're like, hey, look, we have our hardcore fans already. We don't need to do anything else to appeal to them. We just basically have to keep going forward. And as long as we keep going forward, they will follow no matter what. I have one of those persons that I hang out with on Saturdays, Salty Saturday streams. Shout out to Brian. I love Brian. But he is so ready to shill all for Superman. He's already doing it. And I'm sure he would accuse me of being ready to hate on Superman. But look, if the movie is good, objectively, hey, I'll be happy. The issue is that these films are often not objectively good. Ah, man. Michael Burgett said, I saw Jurassic World Rebirth in theaters, and I agree with Jeremy Johns. It felt like two scripts were mixed together in one movie. Yeah. Definitely seems to be a very common thought that's being pushed. Rob D, popcorn buckets, Odin. That is the ultimate indicator of how successful a movie is. How many popcorn buckets did Jurassic World Rebirth sell? Again, I would not trust in that either, because now they're this random commodity, this random specialty item. You have all of these people coming in to buy a bunch of them in bulk to sell them on eBay. So it's really hard to tell, because we would have to know production size. We would have to know, okay, how many did they produce versus sales? They don't give us that information, so it's hard to say. If there's like a whole thing with a reprint, right? If it does so well, they'll actually like reissue popcorn buckets. That would be crazy. John C. says, I loved F1. Unfortunate that it suffers from Mission Impossible 7 through 8 syndrome with the budgets being way too high. Agreed. The budget way too high. And it's not a perfect movie either. It's a rad movie. I did enjoy it quite a bit. But it's definitely one of the better films this year. Kagan Rumsky, are you still in denial about fake Captain Marvel box office total? Kagan Rumsky. I thought that conspiracy had finally died and was buried. CM Chunk, how dare you? I love Jurassic World. The hate for the two sequels disproved your Chris Pratt theory. CM Chunk, go back and rewatch Tomorrow War. And then go back and rewatch commentary, especially by Jeremy over at Geeks and Gamers, about that movie. I'm not saying it's universal, because again, there are even times, just like we see with a certain president, where even Jeremy's like, nope, I can't support y'all on this with the whole Epstein stuff, right? The way that that's being handled. There are things that are sometimes even too far for those kinds of fans, but they will still, a film like Tomorrow War, it's not obscenely bad. It's not offensively bad. It's just not good. It's just not as good as people were trying to make that movie out to be. But people had it in their minds like that because of the Chris Pratt factor. So, yeah, sorry. If I was saying that as a universal, I wanted to clarify that. Let's see. Thenoto saying, no, the 1973 animated series used the actual voices of the act. Oh, okay, you were talking about the animated series, not that live-action continuation. Got you. And then Hardwick's just going to repeat it. Is not the same as Star Trek animated series. Okay, I didn't think the person was talking about the animated series. So, Morak, we saw F1 last week and really enjoyed it. I'll be picking it up on 4K when it becomes available. I will too, because I think that it could be a really cool 4K. Frank G, it's a bit far out, but any thoughts on box office predictions for Five Nights at Freddy's 2? After Blumhouse's colossal failure for Megan 2.0, I wouldn't be surprised if it flopped as well. I think the difference is that Megan didn't have an established fandom. Five Nights at Freddy's did. And the reason why Five Nights at Freddy's succeeded, and again, remember, that was day-and-date release, still did well in theaters. And it proved that whole theory wrong. People who were like, well, day-and-date release is why it failed. Well, day-and-date release is why it failed. It's like, okay, hold on. If day-and-date release is why Black Widow did so badly, why did that not happen for Five Nights at Freddy's? Because of the audience, because of the movie, because of, a lot of other things about it. So, again, early thoughts. I don't really know much about the tracking on it, and tracking is always not really. I would argue Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has a very good chance of doing well. I don't think it's going to fall. I don't think it's going to suffer the same thing that Megan did. And again, the reason why is because Five Nights at Freddy's has an established fan base. And for the most part, I heard a lot of praise from that fan base when the movie came out. Kind of like with the Minecraft situation kind of going on for that movie in many ways. For Megan, you didn't have that fan base already. You were able to organically get a lot of people to show up for that first one, but they took that kind of like as false fool's gold, and so went on. Hardwick. Animated series is pretty good, but the animation takes getting used to since it's just the cheapest animation of history. Gotcha. Jimmy A. I like some of the other movies, but let's just be real. Jurassic Park would have been better as just one movie. I agree. King and Rumsky, are the dinosaurs the good guys? In some cases, they are. Arnold, hey, what's up? He says, howdy, Odin. So as of now, honestly, what are the odds that Lilo and Stitch will hit $1 billion? Someone already asked that question, and Superman's not going to have a part of that. At this point, when it's only $25 million away from $1 billion. Lilo and Stitch. That's why I would say it has about a 75% chance of making it at this point. Superman's not going to take away those chances. Hardwick, to be fair, the candy wrapper bit could be interpreted as clever commentary on how demanding too much on complicated technology, Wi-Fi thermostats, creates more than things can break down, I guess, but you're giving it way too much credit. Arnold, hey, what are your thoughts on Vin Diesel saying Fast 10 Part 2 will bring it back to LA? There was a lot of things that he said in that one. Also, yeah, bring the character of Conor O'Brien. And I know that he's got, is it a twin brother or a younger brother that looks just like him? Whatever the case is, I remember that he helped in Fast 10 finish some of the shots in the movie, right, that had not yet been finished by Paul Walker. So I don't know how to feel about that, though. I guess if you're trying to say this is actually the completion, this is actually finishing it. They also said they were going back to street racing. They're going back to they're going back to all of the things that the franchise used to be. It could be good. It could be a return to form. But because that franchise has become such a international one, that could end up hurting it. By putting things back on America and by having that focus be here, it would have to be really good to get some of the American audiences that franchise has lost quite a bit of. You look at the last one, right? Fast 10. Fast 10 was like a bomb domestically. Those international numbers were just insane for it, though. All right, Jeremy Johns meant about feeling like two scripts mixed together is that the mercenaries, the family, two most unrelated plot lines, family. I saw his video, so you don't need to spell that out for me. But thank you, Hardwick. K. Rumsky, LOL. Remember Sci-Fi, the popcorn bucket fad feels like the men's version of the Stanley Cup. Oh, hey, what are your thoughts overall on Ironheart? I've only watched one episode, and luckily I was on vacation, so I didn't have time to watch the other ones for FNT. So it sounds like I dodged a bullet there. I really don't want to watch the rest of it. I might just for, saying, hey, I should have watched them. I didn't have the time to. But the first episode was awful. Rob D, I've said this before. My main issue with Tomorrow War was that you can tell the writers really didn't want to explain the rules of time travel in that movie. Yep. Arnold, hey, what are your final prediction opening for Superman and end of finishing its run? I say no more than 780 million. Yeah, I think that it has a cap of between 7 and 850 million. I think that's where its cap is. I think most likely somewhere between 5 and 750 million. And that's where I would say. Opening weekend, no idea. I'm not even going to go there because that's just not my thing. I think over $100 million domestic and maybe upwards of 300 million international. I just don't know. I mean, global, so domestic and internationals together. I just don't know what Superman's going to do internationally at this point. I don't know. Hey, if Stitch or Jurassic Park doesn't hit the billion mark, do you honestly see any remaining movies for the rest of the year hitting it? Yeah, so basically, I think at this point, Lilo will hit it. I think that, again, 75% chance is the number I'm putting out there. I think it has the highest chance. But remember, right now, Jurassic World is tracking very far behind the others in the franchise. Because we're seeing a huge diminishing of the domestic market especially, it's going to have to make that up internationally. We're just not really seeing that yet at this point. So if it has the same trend as the other two movies, making $300 million less than the last one, that would mean that we could likely see Jurassic World Rebirth end somewhere between $700 and $850 million. Now, again, jury's still out. Weekend 2 will tell us a lot more about it, but that's kind of what we're looking at right now. With all that being said, after that, will other films have a chance? Fantastic Four, I don't think it will do it. I don't think it'll have a chance. Superman, again, I think it's kind of got a cap. The only DC film to ever hit $1 billion, and by that I mean DCEU. We're not counting Joker here, but just DC or the Batman films by Nolan, right? DCEU films proper, okay? And I know this is a new thing, but most people can't tell the difference, and so we're still going to have to deal with that. So the best that they could ever do was Aquaman, the first one, which made over $1 billion. Again, because of internationals. They don't have that same market for DC anymore. They don't have that same market that they once had for that. So again, Superman, I don't think that's going to do it. I'm sure I'm missing some, but I believe there is an Avatar film to come out this year. If any other film is going to make it, oh, that's right, Zootopia. So the sleeper hit this year is Zootopia 2. I think Zootopia 2 will do a lot like what Inside Out 2 did. And yeah, Inside Out 2 and even Lilo and Stitch 2, or sorry, Lilo and Stitch live action. But because it's animated, I would actually say I could see Zootopia 2 pulling an Inside Out 2 because the fan base for Zootopia is actually quite large. So that one is a sleeper hit. That one could be $1 billion film. If nothing does it, though, Avatar, hands down, will. And I don't want it to. I really don't want it to. I hate Avatar with a fiery passion. I hate that it's a thing. I hate that they were given so much money so that they could make them and that James Cameron's basically going to end his career in this place. I hate it so much, but I cannot deny those films make money. Now, it's going to make a lot less money than the last one did because law of diminishing returns, they are losing their audience too. Rob D, they are using time travel to go back to 2001 to stop Jesse from being shot in Fast 10 Part 2. Dang. They bring time travel in it? I mean, it's totally on brand for them to actually do that, but Brady Fontaine, Disney will leave Lilo and Stitch in theaters for the rest of the summer just to get to $1 billion. Again, through pure willpower. They'll put out specials. They'll put out free items like if you go see it with a friend, you'll get this poster. So they will do everything they can to do that. Capstrong, damn, what no more subs or Charlize Theron clones say it ain't so. Hardwick, are you interested in watching more 1930s movies? Not as of right now. There's too many things that I need to watch anyway. Rob D, what kind of ice cream you got tonight, Odin? It's summer and it's hot. And so, by the way, I mentioned this the other day that I had to get first I had to get an ultrasound, then I had to get a CT scan on my liver, and actually ended up having to get an MRI. The good news is that I'm fine. There were lesions that appeared on my liver. Luckily, they are hemangiomas, therefore no cancer. So thank God for that. So thank y'all for those that have been asking about an update to that. The bad news is that I do have non-alcoholic fatty liver. I am obviously a larger guy and don't have a very good diet. So let's just say ice cream probably not going to be something that I go back to as consistently. That being said, we had a rough weekend, so as I'm preparing, and this might take a while, anyone out there who's gone through this or something similar, trying to lose weight or anything like that, you might understand this too. It's like, okay, I'm gonna start the process. I just need to get there first. So I made some edible cookie dough last night because I needed it. But that's about as close as I got. Some edible cookie dough waiting for me as soon as the stream's over. Jimmy A. Have you seen the trailer for Roof Man, the movie about the guy that lived in Toys R Us for 6 months and then attempted to rob them? What? No. That sounds phenomenal. That sounds amazing. All right. So we're nearing the end of the show, but obviously post more questions if you have any or topics. But I figured this would be a good time to give my quick thoughts on Squid Game. So the series has finally come to a close. It's had one of the weirdest release schedules, if I'm going to be honest, right? Because you had the first season that came out and it was really, really good. Then you had the second season, but it was an incomplete season, right? So they clearly shot seasons 2 and 3, I think, simultaneously. And so therefore they were like, all right, we're just going to put this arbitrary break between 2 and 3. And instead of just making it the end of season 2, because really it's just season 2, part 2, they decided instead to make it season 3. And apparently this is the end. This is the last of the Squid Game season. So let's go ahead and pull this up over on Critic List. So as of right now, the whole series, because Blaine, you got to work on this. We don't have a season by season breakdown yet, but on the whole, 34 votes, 75% rad score is what it is. And to be honest, I think I will probably end up getting, I'll go ahead. Let's just do it live. We'll do it live, people. Why not? So season 1's really, really good. Okay. I like season 1 a lot. I would say probably like most excellent, high rad territory for me. Yeah, obviously I've got issues when it comes to gratuitous violence, language, things like that. But again, the concept, everything is really, really good. So like, let's say we're starting right there at like the bottom of most excellent. Let's say that. That's season 1. All right, season 2. Season 2 did a lot of things that I really did not like. They try to bring in a trans character and have this affirmation thing. And it's very weird because, like, wait, Korean content typically doesn't have culture war stuff in there in that way. It was very, very on the nose. And it was like, okay. Now, I think they did it as best as, like, they did a heck of a lot better than any Hollywood studio would have done it. That's for sure. But it was still there nonetheless. Okay. But then also the other things too. It's like, okay, a lot of these tropes are just being repeated and there really isn't a lot of new stuff going on. And so for that one, yeah, I'm going to knock it down some points. I would say that's probably pushing me actually down to like the bottom of the rad category because season 2 had some issues. It got picked up a little bit by the end of the season. And that's kind of where I'm going is because it got picked up by the end of the season a little bit. I think it did a little bit better. There's this big battle sequence that happens that was very enthralling, that was very kind of on the edge of your seat. And then we get into the final games now in season 3. And even though I hate the ending, and I'll give the spoiler warning in a second, I do think that this does kind of push it to me to being a 6.5 series, right? So I think it's a rad series overall. First season is easily the best. Second season, I think the dip in quality is quite noticeable, but there's some good things in there, especially towards the end as far as like lore and stuff. Season 3, again, overall better than 2, but also just that ending. So anyway, a lot of let's say a lot of graphic language in it, a ton of violence, in nudity and sexual content. I guess there's a bit, I wouldn't say that's the one thing I do enjoy about it is that they don't really show you anything. It's not really graphic in that instance. There is at one point, there is a, slight spoiler here, but the pregnant girl has her baby. I think that should be pretty well known, right? And so there's like a breastfeeding thing that happens, but you don't really see anything there. So I would put this as a bit because there might be something that I've forgotten. I think there's implications more so than anything else, but yeah, that's where that is. Family friendly? Heck no. These are not for families. This is not for kids in any way to watch. For political bias, there is very clearly like an anti-elite mindset, which I think is pretty universal because, yeah, there are likely people out here in the world that do this stuff, like Bill Gates or Jeff Bezos or anyone else you could think of. So I don't think that's really politically left or right. That being said, it is very nihilistic. It doesn't really have a happy ending. And that's a difficult thing, right? That's something that's hard to really recommend in a series because yes, there's some sad series out there. There's some series that have some dark endings, but unless it's an ending that's like blowing your mind and you're like, I love this because of the journey and because of just how much I didn't know was going to happen. I think that in this way, it almost embraces a bit of, it tries to give that message of hope, right? Because at the very end, there's a line about what humans are, right? We're not horses, we are humans. So there's a fight for what it means to be human, the dignity of the human person. But I don't know. I would put this maybe at the very slightest to the slight left because nihilism, in my view, is much more of a left-leaning position than anything else. because it kind of goes into morality as well, right? Because there's certain things where, morally speaking, we could all universally say, okay, yeah, these are bad, but it does try to blend that a bit. There's some people that take their own lives, for instance, and so it's trying to justify suicide to say, yeah, again, I think that there's some issues that happen with that. As far as entertainment value, I would say it's got a bit of entertainment value. Again, it's not really easy to say. I enjoy when people get killed on screen, but there's actually some comedic elements, just like in the previous ones there too as well. So yeah, let me go ahead and put my review. So season 1 equals excellent. I'm not gonna say most excellent, but most excellent. Season 2 equals decent, rad. And then season 3 equals, I would say, rad, but low because of that ending. And with that ending in mind, I'm going to drop this down to a 6.1, 61%. Boom. There it is. So 61%. That's how you fill out a review over on Critic List. You can also fill it out without having to go through all the themes and stuff. I think it's worth doing that personally, because it helps people who are looking at the content, I think, know a little bit more about know more about what the show is, what the movie is, etc. By the way, Cap Strong came in with a $10 donation via Streamlabs. Thank you very much. No message that I can see attached. Just gave a tip. So, dude, Cap Strong. Let me go ahead and refresh that. Cap Strong. Thank you very much. You get Willow. That's Willow right up there in a blanket, being all cute. So, thank you very much for the $10 donation via Streamlabs. It really does. I really do appreciate that quite a bit. But yeah, I would say Squid Game is fine. It is fine. But let's go into a spoiler here. So 3, 2, 1, spoiler for the end of the series. In the very end of the show, one of the characters, the guy that's like the head honcho who's running the game, has escaped and is now looking down an alleyway where I don't know if it's Cate Blanchett or if it's the actress from Fringe. So I sometimes get them confused with each other. I think it's supposed to be Cate Blanchett, though. She is in America, in Los Angeles, I think, and they are playing the same flip game, right, with the red and blue, right? And if you lose, you get smacked around, right? You get slapped in LA. And the implication is that, there is an American Squid Game, and it's supposedly setting up for a new series, which will then be basically a spin-off series where it's the American version of it instead. I don't know how that's going to be. So again, spoilers, over, I guess. But I was like, okay, so the whole series, they left so many things unanswered. They left so many things unfulfilling, right? Where it's like, okay, why? Like, when you're going to keep us down so much with this person dying, all these people dying, right? We all know, right? It's nothing like surprising necessarily, but you do want to end with kind of like a sense of hope. It's such a downer, and it's a downer not for like a message. It's a downer for, hey, we're going to make more money by making more seasons of this show. I don't know. I had some issues with. So again, overall though, I'd still give it in general, 6.1 or so out of 10. So a still low rad score for me. All right, let's get through these last comments and then end the show. Mario Baguette saying, A Roofman is based off a true story and stars Channing Tatum, Kirsten Dunst, Ben Mendelsohn, Lakeith Stanfield, and Peter Dinklage. It releases in October. Okay. Interesting cast there. Justin C., out of curiosity, what is or now was your favorite go-to snack treat at the movie theater? Ooh, good question. I personally like Junior Mints. I'm a chocolate guy. So obviously popcorn. Gotta have popcorn, salted popcorn with a drink. But as far as my additional snack, I always go chocolate, and I always would have to go Junior Mints. I love me some Junior Mints, man. But again, there's a lot of other really good ones. M&M's, of course, are fantastic. But that would be the one. Junior mints, always a good go-to. Banjo Sandwich, Odin 3 was 2 plus 6 more. Do you mean like season 3 was season 2 plus 6? Is that what you were trying to get to? CGI baby was bad. Oh man, I almost forgot about the CGI baby. You're right. Oh yeah. I've seen worse CGI babies though. I have seen worse CGI babies, but it was not good. You are right about that. Hardwick, in your opinion, what is the best performance you've seen from Scarlett Johansson? No idea, to be honest. Couldn't tell you. Not off the top of my head. There's not one that really sticks out. Hey, that was supposed to be quiet. I'm sorry. It just showed up. So I thank you for that. Thank you. Gary Banjo Sandwich says it is Kate. Obesity Game USA. Dude, that's the other thing too. If they do a USA version, oh my gosh. If they're going to put a whole trans character into a Korean show, imagine who they're going to put into an American version of it. Like, if it becomes like a parody where, yeah, it starts to like go into like the, oh man, this country is so obese or things like if it goes that route, okay, it could actually be very much like satire, right? Just a good satire and commentary on our culture. But I don't trust Netflix. I don't trust these people. So, man. Yeah, if it's going to happen in the Korean version, imagine what they'll do there. The more I got to dip out, catch you Wednesday morning. Yeah, absolutely. Hardwick saying, I just looked it up, and it is Kate Blanchett. The show's creator said her character has nothing to do with a spinoff, though. Interesting. That's very weird. That is very weird that they would pay her. I don't know if there's maybe a connection where she didn't take much, but it's like, what? Why would you bring an actress like that in if she's not going to be a part of the show in any way? Maybe that's because it's in the early stages. Who knows? Cap Strong, Kate is the older lady. That's what I thought. Jimmy A, have you ever asked the Frozen Junior mints at the theater? One theater near me offers this, and they are the bomb. Dude, okay, no, I've not, but I've seen them. I have seen them in theaters. Yeah, I'm always like, wait, why are there these random candy boxes that are in the freezer? That's behind the stand, and you have to ask for by special request. I've never had those before though, because actually, to be honest, I like the melty chocolate. I like the room temperature melty chocolate. That's just a preference thing, right? It's just a preference thing. There will be a spinoff for sure. Gary says absolutely there will be. Rob D, Obesity Game USA would be one chocolate bar surrounded by 20 fat guys and one fat woman. Oh man, could you imagine? Yeah, yes, General Winkster. This is a great comment. If you want to know how bad the CGI baby in Squid Game is, it is infinitely better than the Twilight baby. Because it doesn't do much. I think it's because it also doesn't do much. It's a baby versus like a baby infant toddler, which they try to do for some reason with that. I've seen the clips of that online, and it's just so funny. I like biscuits at the cinema. Now, by biscuits, do you actually mean cookies? Because I like chocolate chip cookies myself. But I don't know at the theater. I like watching stuff at home, though, these days. But that's going to be it for me, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you all very much for watching. We talked about a lot of stuff. Hopefully you all understand about what is going on with Jurassic World, why the movie is doing what it is doing, how, yes, it is doing well in 2025 terms, in budgetary terms, but in comparison to the rest of the franchise, it is not, as Tony would have you believe, the second biggest global opening of the franchise. No. It's actually one of the worst openings of the franchise, and it's just yet another sign that there is that law of diminishing returns where the audience keeps on shrinking. And yes, if you're going to try to bring up, and I'm sure these people aren't going to even hear this because they don't watch the videos. They see the title, and so they immediately have to just assume I'm going to say certain things. But if you're going to talk about the internationals, guess what? Even if you account for the very few countries that Dominion had an early release in, it only accounts for about $25 to $50 million. And if you take that money out and adjust that number for inflation, to be fair, right? Guess what? You still got about $400 million for Dominion versus $325 for Rebirth. So $75 to $100 million difference there. That's not a second best. That would make it a third best, and that's assuming Fallen Kingdom isn't better. And have not done the math on that one yet, but I imagine Fallen Kingdom did actually have a higher global opening. But with all of the things, General Wixer says, inflation is a social construct. No. if my dollar today is used in another time frame, it is worth a lot more money. Hardwick says there's an American spinoff being made. It's from David Fincher, but supposedly Blanchett's character has nothing to do with it. Interesting. UK's not gravy biscuit. UK's not gravy. Yeah, UK's. Yeah. Like, it's a cookie, right? It's what you call cookies. No, biscuits. Now, I know what y'all mean by Now, real biscuits, okay? Real biscuits are American biscuits, right? Where they're fluffy, buttery, cover them with gravy. I want me a biscuit. Lesser Logic getting here right at the very end. Heartbreak Ridge, member for 19 months. Thank you, Heartbreak Ridge, for being here. I'm celebrating your 19-month anniversary. Oh, an excellent show. Thank you for having a good evening. Will Riker 94, thank you for being here as well. And anyway, that's going to be it. Hail chat, Heartbreak Ridge coming in right at the last minute. I got to head out, everybody, because I've got some edible cookie dough in the refrigerator waiting for me with my name all over it. You guys are all amazing, beautiful people. If you have recently become a member on the channel, through Patreon, Subscribestar, on YouTube, I will get the updated members video out there by Wednesday. Our next show will be Wednesday morning. That's our Wednesday morning summertime show. But I was out all last week, had some time today to finally chill, but just was not able to, with the things that I am working on still over the summer, get that video recorded for the July shoutouts, but I will get those taken care of, so don't worry about that. Anyway, thank you all very much for watching. Smash that like button, light that fire button on Odyssey, smash the Rumble button as well. Also, because no one on the Odyssey side has said anything, I think we're going to cut off Odyssey. So if you're rewatching this, if you're watching the replay and you're wondering why aren't we on Odyssey anymore, I stopped uploading videos there because it was just yet another step to go through. And I'm thinking, I'm going to cut off the Odyssey one now too. It's more hassle than it's worth. So if you are still someone that watches on Odyssey though, and you want to make a case for it, leave a comment, reach out through social media, let me know. If not, then I'll just cut that off and focus just on the Rumble, X, Twitter / YouTube audience instead. Yeah. End of an era, most likely looking like, again, we did that same thing with D-Live. D-Live reached its peak and went away, and that's just kind of the way the world works. But I always like to give y'all alternatives. Y'all are not stuck on YouTube. Y'all have plenty of places to go instead, and I will always be open to other platforms if we can make them work. So anyway, thank y'all very much for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your evening, a blessed Monday, a blessed feast once again of Saints Cyril and Methodius. Talked about them a little bit in the beginning of the show. Look them up. Awesome people. And as always, God bless. Now for a huge special shout out to all of my Chosen of Valhalla members, starting off first with my people on Patreon, Father Luca Illick and Miss Martin Muses. Check out her YouTube channel by the same name, Miss Martin Muses. Also to my Subscribestar people, Matt317. Check out his Twitch channel by the same name, Matt317. Also a huge shout out to my newest YouTube member, Raichu. And lastly to my YouTube member, Mr. Roy. Shout out to you, good sir. And if you want your name shouted out at the end of every live stream and video, check out the top link in the video description below where you get access to that. Also, you get access to a plethora of other things. You get your name listed at the end of every live stream and video, like you saw in those names that came up before this video started. And also access to a giveaways channel that I host over on the Discord server where I give away 4Ks, Steelbooks, Blu-rays, all kinds of stuff. So check that out if you're interested in that. Also, I have an exclusive podcast that I hold at least once a month, and it's always a good time, and you get extra bonus content with that also. So if any of that sounds interesting, again, check out that top link in the video description below. You guys are all amazing, and beautiful people, have a wonderful rest of your day, and as always, God bless.